and welcome to Eileen Who Got Yoga. Today we're going to talk about what does it mean to square your hips. You go to a yoga class, sometimes a teacher says, square your hips, and you don't even know what does that mean. So today we're going to talk about what that is. I'll show you first what the hips are, in case if you don't know. These are the hips, okay? And when the teacher says square the hips, it basically means that your hips should be in one plane. So hips have the ability to, one hip can move forward and the other one could be backwards, or the hip can be hiking side to side, and that's usually like swinging of the hips. So especially us ladies, we like to swing our hips, and we think that, and sometimes we don't even realize that we're also doing it in yoga. Okay, so that's one thing that we should a little bit more mindful about in practicing yoga. I have a SI joint issue. Yeah, so many issues in my life. I'm kidding. All right, but so that's one of the things that I really have to be mindful about. Okay, so squaring the hips. One way of understanding squaring the hips is, let's come first to your tabletop position so you understand. So in tabletop position, you can tuck your toes so it would be easier for you. Hug the belly in as much as you can, and then try to broaden your collarbone. Step the right foot back. The moment one leg is backwards and then the other is a little bit forward, you're already going to start to feel that there's like a shifting on the hips if you were a little bit more aware. But so one way you can figure it out is by bringing a hand, your palm, at the back of your sacrum, okay, on your sacrum, and then try to feel if one hip is forward or lopsided towards the other, then the other, okay? And then from there, when you start to lift the leg up, core engage, try to feel if your hip starts to open up to the side. And then you can readjust by pressing the other hip or the lifted leg forward and pull the belly in. Okay, I'll do the other side. So just I feel my body's what do you call this? Balanced. So stepping the left foot back. When I step the left foot back, this time instead of bringing your hand towards your sacrum, you're gonna bring your hands down towards the mat. And then from here, try to feel the weight on your hands. Observe that your hand feels a little bit heavier on your left hand, on the hand where your foot is backwards. Okay, now, once you start lifting it up, the tendency of your body is to cheat, okay? So it wants to slowly move towards equalize the weight on your hands by putting more weight to your right hand without knowing that sometimes putting more weight to your right hand makes your body a little bit shifted, make your body shift to the right side. So your work is to put more effort again towards the left hand, push away extra, so engage the core, and then lift the left leg up. Try to roll that right hip back a little bit, and then lift, flex your foot, it'll be easier. Try not to lift that left leg too high, so that you know your hip is squaring. Left knee down. One way we can also check it out is by stepping in your low lunge or Anjaneyasana. So in low lunge, you can bring the left hip down here, left foot forward, left hip down. So try to move your hips to the right side where the other foot is a little bit back. Once you're doing that, try to feel the lifting of your pubic bone. And then try to roll the left hip down a little bit more. And then as you feel that, try to feel if your right hip is a little bit back compared to your left hip. Then start to pull the left hip back and roll it down at the same time. Breathe. This alone, making that effort of squaring your hips is actually harder. Okay, and then we'll switch to the other side. Right foot forward. You can manually put your thumb at the crease of your hip and then roll the crease of your hip downward. If you have tight hips, you would start to feel your hip stretch a little bit on the opposite. And then as you roll the right hip down, try to lift your pubic bone towards the navel. And then try to roll the right hip back a little bit because this leg is the one that's forward. It would want to go forward. So as you bring it down, and then try to feel pushing your hips a little bit to the right side. And there's the effort. Yes, it's a lot harder. Okay. Now, I usually see this in three-legged dog. When one leg is lifted, it's actually similar to your tabletop position. So when one leg is lifted, a lot of the hips start to open up. This is okay. It really depends on the intention of the practice. But when the teacher is asking to square your hips, the way for you to learn to square your hips is to feel your inner thigh. This part. Okay, when you feel your inner thigh, try to roll your inner thigh towards the ceiling and letting your knee and toes point forward. And then try to feel the weight on your right hand. There's a little bit more weight to your right hand than your left hand. You can almost lift your left hand up easily. And then try to lift it up. So the more that you try to lift the leg up, the harder it is to balance. And then try to also remember the left hip is forward. Try to roll that left hip back, so you can avoid the hiking of the hips as well. So I hope you were able to understand squaring of the hips. You might be able to hear that terminology of squaring of the hips whenever you are in lunges, warrior one. I don't know with other teachers if they do squaring of the hips in warrior two. I don't. For some reasons, some teachers they teach it squaring of the hips in warrior two, but for me I don't. Might hurt my hips in warrior two if I try to square my hips. And then what else? Yeah, tabletop plank, side plank. Sometimes you need to square your hips depending on the intention of the practice. So line basically is different depending on the intention of the sequence or the class. I hope you were able to understand what the squaring of the hips mean. And if you have any other questions or any thoughts of what does the teacher mean when they say this, please do not forget to leave a comment below. And I'll see you again next time. Namaste.
Thank you for practicing yoga with me. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You can also check out more yoga videos and follow me in my Facebook and Instagram.